from the most censored of the year, just confirming, in case you thought it otherwise, just confirming that the U.S. has systemic racism. Black Americans are 7 times more likely than whites to be wrongly convicted of serious crimes. Now, let me get into the details, because many of you understand racism exists in this country. So many of you may just go, well, okay, so yeah, they arrest more black people, but that doesn't mean that. But just wait. As reported by the Innocent Project and a few others, National Registry of Exoneration study found that black people are 7 times more likely than white people to be wrongly convicted of murder, sexual crimes, and drug crimes. But it's far worse than 7 times, because this study is only going off those exonerated, which I understand why you would do that, because you can't know necessarily for the ones who haven't been exonerated. But do you know how tough it is to get exonerated when you've been convicted of sex crimes, or less so drug crimes, but sex crimes, murder, and occasionally drug crimes? How tough it is if they've already locked you up and said you are absolutely guilty to get exonerated. It's very hard. So if this number is 7 times more likely under exonerations, it's probably far higher for the actual number of people locked up right now who are innocent. Far higher than just 7 times more black people. Probably is many times more than that. Anyway, the NRA study analyzed 3,200 exonerations for the above crimes dating back to 1989. 53% of those exonerated were black, even though black Americans make up only 13.6% of the population. 53% of those exonerated were black, while the black people are only 13% of the population. Only 33% of those exonerated were white. And so again, if you add, so 33% are white, 53 and 33% makes 86%. So if you would add that extra 14% to basically, because they're non-whites, that's right, Native Americans and Hispanics make up most of them. If you were to add that to the 53% of the exonerated were black, you get 67%, 2/3 of all exonerations are non-white, which is crazy. Meaning white people get locked up when they actually do it. Non-white people get locked up when they don't do it. Black Americans were 7.5 times more likely than whites to be wrongly convicted of murder, 8 times more likely to be wrongly convicted of sexual crimes, and 19 times more likely to be wrongly convicted of drug crimes. 19 times! The enormous disparity in wrongful convictions for drug crimes can be explained in part by the implicit racial bias of police officers. Yes, that is part of it, right? Police officers are far more likely, and this goes for black or white police officers, believe it or not, far more likely to think that a black person has done the crime, fill in blank crime, as opposed to a white person. White person gets pulled over, probably didn't have a joint, in the car. Black person gets pulled over, they probably do have a joint in the car. That's how their mind works. And so they're far more likely to search the black car. Additionally, the disparity in wrongful rape convictions can often be blamed on white officers' misidentification of black men. White officers will often see a black guy, or maybe on a video or maybe somewhere else, and then they find any other black guy and they say, that's the guy. And of course, back in the day, I don't know how often this happens now, very well may still happen a lot. They get a murder in the area, someone's murdered, and they just bring in an eyewitness and show them the 3 people they were trying to convict anyway. Could, gang members or whoever that the police don't like in the neighborhood. And they pressure the witness to just pick one of the people that they want to arrest anyway. Melissa No's article for Essence quoted from the NRE and said, quote, a substantial number of convictions that led to rape exonerations of black defendants were marred by implicit biases, racially tainted official misconduct, and in some cases, explicit racism. So in some cases, it's explicit. And this is the last point I want to make, is that a lot of this is not explicit. A lot of this, a lot of what causes our systemic racism in our prison industrial complex is not a cop going, I hate black people, or an eyewitness going, I hate black people, and therefore they did the crime. It is systemic. It is people, white people misidentifying black people and not even really realizing they're racist. It's white people assuming black people did the crime and they don't really think they're assuming anything. It is the fact that police are, heavily put into black areas, so they're more likely to arrest black people. All of these things are all these things add to systemic racism. They are a piece of systemic racism. Systemic racism is the majority of the time not someone going, I hate black people and let's get them. I mean, that does happen some of the time. But for people who think, oh, we're not racist because me and my friends don't say racist things anymore. That's not it. That's not how the system works. Anyway, I've gone into that many times before, but I will continue to because it is a horrible thing to see so many lives destroyed uh, through systemic racism in so many different ways. This is just the prison industrial complex. We're not even talking about the rest of society.